It was a Thursday night, sometime after 11, and the rain hadn't stopped since sunset. My apartment felt smaller than usual, every sound sharper. I remember sitting on the couch with a mug of tea, scrolling through my phone, half listening to the soft patter against the balcony door. My boyfriend Aaron was away on a short business trip, 2 nights, maybe 3, so it was just me in the quiet. I don't usually get uneasy being alone, but that night had a heaviness to it, like the whole building was holding its breath. Around midnight I heard the first sound, a quick dull thud in the hallway outside my door. It wasn't loud, just enough to pull my eyes from the screen. At first I thought it was one of the neighbors getting home late or someone dropping a bag. But a few minutes later I heard it again, slower this time, like footsteps. One pause, then another. The kind of measured steps you take when you don't want to be heard. I muted the TV and listened. Nothing. The rain kept whispering against the glass. I waited another minute, then shook it off. Old buildings make noises. Pipes, wood, water expanding in the walls, there's always something. I told myself that and went back to scrolling. My dog Luna was asleep near the door. Normally she's the first to react to any sound, but that night she just lifted her head, gave a small, uneasy whine and went still again. That bothered me more than the noise itself. Dogs notice things before we do. At 12:20 another sound, 3 light knocks. Not on my door but close, like a few feet away in the hallway. I turned down the lamp, listening hard. The knocks came again, faint but deliberate. Luna started to growl low in her throat. "Hello?" I called, instantly regretting it. My voice sounded too loud. I waited. No answer. Only the sound of rain and the refrigerator hum. I went to the peephole and looked out. The hallway was empty, washed in the dim yellow light of the exit sign. Nothing moved. I checked the locks, deadbolt, chain, everything secure, and told myself someone probably got the wrong door. Still, I double-checked the windows and turned on the hallway light inside the apartment. The extra light made me feel better for about 10 minutes. When the clock hit 1, I heard it again, footsteps, soft and slow, pacing the corridor. Luna started barking this time, sharp, nervous barks that made my heart race. I hushed her, grabbed my phone, and tiptoed to the door again. The footsteps stopped. I pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. I unlocked the door as quietly as I could and opened it just a crack. The hallway stretched empty in both directions. I could still hear the rain against the far windows. The air smelled slightly damp, like old carpet. No one was there. I shut the door fast and relocked it. To calm myself, I opened a podcast and tried to focus on something ordinary. It worked until Luna suddenly stood up and faced the wall by the kitchen, growling again. Not the hallway this time, the wall. She stared at it like she was watching something crawl behind it. I told her to stop, my voice trembling more than I wanted to admit. She whimpered but didn't move. The next sound came from inside the apartment, a faint scraping like nails dragging softly along drywall. I froze. It lasted maybe 2 seconds and then stopped. I checked every corner, every closet, even under the sink. Nothing. At 1:45, I decided to record whatever was happening. I set my phone on the hallway table facing the apartment door, hit record, and went back to the couch. If there really were footsteps, I wanted proof for the landlord or the police. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then came a soft creak. Another step. The sound of the phone's mic catching each faint vibration made my skin crawl. When I finally checked the recording, I nearly dropped the phone. Between the quiet gaps of the rain, I heard clear, slow footsteps right up to the door, then a whisper, so soft it was almost air, saying my name. I replayed it 3 times. It was my name. Drawn out, low and unmistakable. I don't remember locking the phone, only that my hands were shaking. I unplugged every light in the living room so no one could see in from the windows, then sat on the floor beside Luna, whispering that everything was fine even though my heart was pounding. At 2:30 I called Aaron. He didn't pick up. The storm probably messed with the signal. I left a short voicemail. "I think someone's in the hallway again. It's probably nothing. Just call me when you wake up." I hung up fast, embarrassed at how scared I sounded. The next hour dragged. I must have checked the peephole a dozen times, but the hallway stayed empty. When I finally started dozing off on the couch, I woke up to the sound of my own voice. It was faint, muffled, coming from somewhere behind me. I turned slowly toward the hallway table. The phone was still recording, red light blinking, but the sound wasn't coming from there. It was coming from the wall behind the couch. Someone, or something, was playing my recording from inside the wall. Luna barked wildly and ran to the kitchen, claws skittering on the tile. The playback stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. I sat frozen, staring at the wall, the dark line of the baseboard, listening for another sound. Nothing. Just the rain again. When I finally worked up the courage to move, I went to the wall and pressed my palm against it. The plaster felt cold, damp. I thought I heard something faint, a breath maybe, or the soft shift of air. I stepped back, heart hammering. That's when the knocking started again. 3 slow taps, but this time from inside the wall. I didn't move for almost a full minute after the knocking stopped. My hand was still halfway to the wall, my breath shallow. Luna paced in small circles, whining like she wanted to dig through the floor. When I finally whispered her name, she bolted to the bedroom and hid under the bed. That's when I realized whatever was happening, she wanted no part of it. I grabbed my phone from the hallway table. The recording was still running, 47 minutes long now. I stopped it and saved the file, then started another one immediately, just in case. I told myself that if I captured more evidence, I could prove something strange was going on. The logical part of my brain was still trying to treat this like a problem that could be solved, but the rest of me already knew logic didn't belong here. Another tap came from the same spot. Then a longer scrape, like someone dragging a fingernail behind the plaster. I backed away, whispering, "Stop." The sound stopped. For a few seconds there was only rain and my own heartbeat. I needed to see inside that wall. I remembered the small utility panel near the baseboard that the maintenance guy once opened to check the wiring. I crouched, hands shaking, and pried it loose with a butter knife. The metal plate clanged on the floor. A rush of stale, cold air came out, damp and heavy like the inside of a basement. I aimed my phone's flashlight into the gap. The beam lit a narrow cavity between the drywall and concrete. I expected to see insulation, wires, pipes, anything normal. Instead, there was an old piece of fabric stuffed into the space, gray with dust. When the light touched it, it twitched. I fell backward, slamming against the wall opposite. The fabric slid deeper into the darkness with a faint rustle, like it was being pulled. I kicked the panel shut and scrambled up. My brain raced for explanations. A rat, loose material moving from the wind, maybe a trick of my eyes. But rats don't whisper names. I called Erin again. Straight to voicemail. I tried my friend Tasha next. She answered groggily. "Tasha, there's something in my wall." "What? In your wall?" she mumbled. "It's 3 a.m. Are you okay?" "I'm serious. I heard footsteps in the hallway earlier, and now there's knocking from inside the wall." She was quiet for a second. "You're scaring yourself, girl. It's the wind or the plumbing. You live in an old building." "I have a recording," I said. "You can hear it saying my name." That made her pause. "Okay, send it to me." I tried to share the file, but it failed. Network error. I checked the bars. No signal. The storm had taken out service completely. When I looked up, the light above the sink flickered twice and went out. I found a flashlight in the drawer and turned it on. The beam trembled in my shaking hand as I swept it across the apartment. The shadows seemed thicker, slower to move when the light passed. I went to check on Luna under the bed. She was still there but shaking violently, her eyes fixed on the corner where the 2 walls met. I followed her gaze. The drywall there bulged slightly like something pressed from the other side. Then came a faint voice, almost a whisper, "Let me out." I stumbled back, hitting my elbow on the dresser. The bulge receded. I ran to the living room and grabbed my coat and keys. I was leaving. I didn't care about the storm anymore. I threw open the front door and froze. The hallway was pitch dark. Every light along the ceiling had gone out except the one by my door, which flickered weakly. The carpet was wet, squelching under my bare feet. I took one step out and saw footprints, bare, human, glistening with water, leading away toward the stairwell. "Hello?" I called, voice cracking. No answer. The building seemed empty, yet the air hummed faintly as if dozens of voices whispered from behind the walls. I shut the door again, locked it, and leaned against it. I didn't know where to go. I thought about going to a neighbor's apartment, but the idea of stepping into that hallway again made my chest tighten. Instead, I decided to wait it out until dawn. I went back to the couch, flashlight still on, and sat facing the hallway. I must have stayed there for an hour, fighting to keep my eyes open. Sometime near 5 a.m. I drifted off. A sound woke me, not loud, just a soft tap against wood. I lifted my head. The apartment door was slowly creaking open. The chain lock was still in place, stretched tight, but the gap was wide enough for a sliver of darkness to show. Something pale moved behind it. I ran forward and slammed the door shut, forcing the chain back into place. The impact sent a cold breeze through the room, and for a second I thought I smelled river water. When I looked down, a thin trail of wet footprints led from the door to the wall by the kitchen. The same wall that had knocked before. That was when my phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. It was an audio file. I hesitated, then played it. Static filled the speaker, followed by my own voice saying, "Hello? Who's there?" The same words I'd spoken earlier in the night. Then another voice answered, clear and close, "I am." I dropped the phone. The audio kept playing, scraping, footsteps, and finally the sound of someone breathing right next to the microphone. I kicked the phone away, heart hammering, and looked toward the wall. The bulge was back, larger now, pulsing faintly like it was alive. The drywall cracked. A thin line split open across the paint. I could see darkness behind it, not like shadow but like a hole to somewhere else. A hand, gray, water-stained, with skin peeling from the knuckles, pushed through. It clawed at the edge, trying to widen the gap. I ran to the bedroom and grabbed Luna, who was whining uncontrollably. I tried the balcony door. It was stuck, swollen from the rain. I threw my shoulder against it until it burst open and cold air rushed in. The storm was still raging outside, wind howling through the narrow street below. I wrapped Luna in my arms and stepped out onto the balcony, rain soaking us instantly. From inside, the knocking grew louder, faster, as if dozens of fists pounded the walls. The light from the hallway flickered again. For one brief flash, I saw through the open doorway, figures standing in the corridor, all facing my apartment, silent and dripping. Then the light went out completely. I don't remember climbing down. The next thing I knew, I was in the parking lot barefoot, clutching Luna, staring up at my apartment window. It was dark except for one faint glow behind the curtains, the light from my phone, still recording. When the police came that morning, they said they found no sign of a break-in. The walls looked intact, no cracks, no damage. They said maybe I dreamt part of it, maybe I had a nightmare mixed with the storm noise. But when I asked if they'd listened to the recording, the officer said, "You mean the one on your phone? It's blank. Just rain." I moved out 2 days later. I don't care if they think I imagined it. I know what I heard, what I saw. Sometimes when it rains late at night, Luna still wakes up and stares at the wall. And if I'm quiet enough, I swear I can hear faint knocking again, 3 slow taps, always from inside the walls. So, what would you do if the sounds weren't coming from the hallway but from inside your walls? If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a night on DW of Dread, where every story whispers a little too close to home. Because sometimes what you hear in the dark is already in the room with you.